Welcome. I'm Reverend Erika Hewitt, the Minister of Worship Arts at the Unitarian Universalist Association. I live on the ancestral lands of the Abenaki people on the coast of Maine, and my pronouns are she, her, hers.
I'm Reverend Vail, Congregational Giving Director at the UUA. I live on the ancestral land of the Ohlone people in San Mateo, California, and I use she, her, her pronouns. This worship service is an offering from your UUA, Worship Web, our Stewardship and Development Department, and your UUA President. It's an expression of our covenant to and with each other.
You are part of us, and we are part of you. In our joyful process of collaboration with the stellar religious professionals you're about to meet, we centered our care for you, the congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association.
Even in these times when we are with one another virtually, let us remember that we belong to one another.
We are loved into being.
These are times of isolation and loneliness. Our hearts long for connection and for one another.
Illness has visited our lives. Struggle and pain are in our communities. Our children's lives have been disrupted. There has been such great loss.
And yet we are surrounded by beauty, by grace, and by music that blesses us.
All the while, we are surrounded by love. We are loved into courage.
We are loved into community. We are loved into generosity. We are loved into being. We are loved into being.
Come, let us open our hearts and grow the size of our souls. Come, let us worship together. I'm joining you here from First Parish in Cambridge. And I want to thank the First Parish community and Reverend Adam Lawrence Dyer for offering their space to us. First Parish sits on the occupied land of the Massachusetts people. A community of the Massachusetts people still live in Massachusetts in the community of Canton. I have a story for you today. And there's two things that are important about this story. Number one, it's a true story. And number two, it's an anonymous story. So I read this story many years ago in Yes magazine, and the author of the story was listed only as Jane B. I love this story because it speaks to the fact that even in incredibly difficult circumstances, that the presence of love, that acts of generosity and hospitality really are life-saving. Here's Jane's story. Jane and her brother grew up in the 1940s in Hollywood, California, a town known for show business. Now, Jane says that she and her brother were adopted by their parents, not because their parents loved children, but because their parents thought it completed the image of the perfect Hollywood family. A beautiful home in Beverly Hills, a fleet of servants, 2 adorable children, and a little spaniel dog. Jane and her brother hardly ever saw their parents. They were largely raised by the housekeepers and nannies. It was only on Sunday when the whole family went to the country club. There, Jane and her brother were expected to be perfectly well behaved, not to run around or get dirty, to know which piece of silverware to use at every course. to be seen but not heard. They were taught to speak only when spoken to. Looking back, Jane said of herself, "I wasn't a real girl. I was a cardboard cutout of a girl." Jane's best memories from her childhood were when she was with her grandmother. And one day, her grandmother took her to a rummage sale in a church basement. Now, this was Hollywood, California. So this rummage sale was filled with costumes and fancy clothes that were from the movies or from movie stars. Jane's grandmother gave her $2, which was a lot of money at that time, and said, "Buy whatever you want." Well, Jane went home with 2 armfuls of things, and as soon as she got home, she ran straight up to her room with all of that loot, and she started trying things on. Finally, she settled on a little pink night dress, a big broad hat, white satin gloves, and every piece of costume jewelry that she bought. She looked at herself in the mirror, and Jane was awestruck. She looked like a different person. She decided to give herself a new name, Madame Modifus. Now, whereas Jane was quiet, Madame Modifus was bold. And whereas Jane was shy, Madame Modifus was flamboyant. And whereas Jane always did exactly as she was told, well, Madame Modifus, she had a mind of her own. Jane, all dressed up, ran down the stairs across the yard to the house next door and knocked on the door. When the mother next door and her little son opened the door, their jaws fell open. Jane said, "My name is Madame Modifus. May I come in for tea?" Well, the mother and her son, they welcomed Jane into their home. They played for hours, and then Jane went back to her house. Now, any time that Jane had a little bit of time to herself, she would get all dressed up and she would run to the neighbor's house, and they just came to call her Madame Modifus. Jane ends her story by sharing how she now is a grandmother, and that one of her favorite things to do is to visit her own grandchildren, and that whenever she goes to see them, they wait for her outside on the yard, and when she pulls into the driveway, they jump up and down and scream her name, Maudie, 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 the only name they've ever known her by.
There are days that I won't remember when I'm old, right?
when I can't do nothing else. Sometimes I cry. Sometimes I cry when I can't do nothing else.
Dear ones, we will now enter a time of libations, lamentation, and prayer. The pouring of libations is a centuries-old ritual performed by many cultures. At the core of this sacred ritual is the calling forth of personal and collective ancestors across the millennium and across all space. Libations are poured to honor life, all life. Before we begin, it is just and holy that we honor the original lands of the indigenous community or communities where we live. As I am here at Community Church of New York in New York City, specifically Midtown Manhattan, I must honor that these lands are of the Lenape peoples. The Lenape offspring of the Algonquin civilization and includes present-day New Jersey, New York, and Delaware. If you know them, please call to mind the indigenous peoples where you reside, honoring that these lands are not ours, and we must always honor this truth. I will now call upon the ancestors from all directions as I remain before you, even virtually. I invite you to respond Ashe as each direction is honored. The pouring of libations. To the east, lands of the rising sun, elements of air with the color yellow, ancestors of the East, be with us now. Ashe. To the South, welcoming the ancestors of African ancestry, the element is fire and the color is red. Be with us now. Ashe. To the West, lands of the setting sun, the element of water with the color of blue, the emotional realm, ancestors of the West, be with us now. Ashe. To the North, the elements of earth with the color of green, the direction of sustenance and grounding, ancestors of the North, be with us now. Ashe. Lastly, I pour libations to the heavens, the plants, the seas, the animals, and all winged creatures. Be with us now. Ashe. Our time of lament. Friends, both near and far, we have been and are in some of the most difficult times the world has experienced in over 100 years. COVID-19 continues to unleash havoc on this country and the world, with over 500,000 people dying here in the United States, the most the world over, even as over 1 million vaccines are being given daily. The level of grief so many are experiencing, with isolation, feeling like incarceration, full-time parenting, providing online, full-time educational learning for children is much too much. That is, if you can afford to be at home at all. Some of our workloads have produced a level of fatigue, particularly for some mothers and other caregivers, creating levels of despair, which is leading to depression. We indeed must lament. We must grieve how difficult this is and continues to be for so many. At once, it's also true that we recently heard the life expectancy for everyone has decreased during the pandemic. For African Americans, social scientists have stated the life expectancy during the pandemic is decreased by 3 years. 2 years for our Latinx communities and 1 year for those who are white. We also know as a country, the vaccines are being distributed in inequitable ways, and the world over, 75% of the vaccines are going to more wealthy countries, not where they are needed most. We must lament. Yes, give yourself time to lament, to grieve, to shout, scream, cry, and sometimes it feels laughable how it's going on. And we can continue to find beauty. Let us continue to reach out to others in even more innovative ways. Lean on and nurture your Unitarian Universalist faith and share what you are feeling. Let us also create. Let's create music, art, joy, and safe human touch where possible. Amen. I couldn't hear y'all. Amen. I would now like to invite us into a moment of prayer as we prepare our hearts and minds for today's loved into being service. Please take a few moments to locate your breath in your body. Take this moment to breathe deeply. Just notice where your breath is in your body without judgment. A moment of prayer. Spirit of life, love, nameless one, God. We gather in times of great peril for so many. Our social and political systems are in great upheaval, even as we are rising up to end all systemic oppressions. Yet, the COVID-19 virus continues to mutate even as the vaccines are being given. 10 million people have lost their jobs, with many of them, mostly Black and brown people, will never return to those very jobs. It's also true that millions in Texas and other parts of the globe are experiencing impacts of climate change, which will forever change their lives. Great Spirit, be with us now and them always. As we prepare our hearts and minds for the word today, please give us the courage to know that Unitarian Universalism can and does transform lives, and we have sacred, holy work to do to decenter whiteness within ourselves, each congregation, and our communities. Our communities and the world need our highest aspirations and ideals as a living faith tradition to rise up in all of us as we continue to love ourselves and each other into holy being. This is ongoing, demanding, sacred, yes, sacred work. And I believe we collectively can do it. Do you? Amen. Ashe. Blessed be. Shalom. Salam. And may it be so.
Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me. Comfort me, oh my soul. Stay with me, stay with me, stay with me, oh my soul. Stay with me, stay with me, stay with me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me. Sing with me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Pray with me, pray with me, Pray with me, oh my soul. Pray with me. Pray with me. Pray with me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul.
I would like to begin by acknowledging that I live in the traditional land of the people of the Three Fires. I am deeply honored and grateful to the land itself and to the people who have taken care of it for generations. And today I bring to you a quote from the process theologian Bernard Loomer, who says, by size I mean the stature of a person's soul. I mean the range and depth of your love, your capacity for relationships. I mean the volume of life you can take into your own being and still maintain your integrity and individuality. The intensity and variety of outlook you can entertain in the unity of your being without feeling defensive or insecure. I mean the strength of your spirit to encourage others to become freer in the development of their diversity and their uniqueness. I mean the power to sustain more complex and enriching tensions. I mean the magnanimity of concern to provide conditions that enable others to increase in stature. End of quote. Of the hundreds of books I had to read for seminary, of the thousands of passages that I read and highlighted and marked, this one has stayed with me the most. From the moment I read that quote, I was like, that is it. That is it. Because since I came from Cuba in 1995, I have been in many liberal religious circles, and we had been having in those circles this amazing conversation about what was out there. amazing conversations about the meaning of life, but no one was talking about what goes on in here, at the core of our being. No one was talking about our humanity and the struggles that come with being human, as well as the delights. This quote was talking about these tensions inside of us, the expansion, the volume, the range, the depth, the complexities of our humanity. Shall I read that quote again? Let's read it again. Here it is. By size, I mean the stature of a person's soul, the range and depth of your love, your capacity for relationships. I mean the volume of life you can take into your own being and still maintain your integrity and individuality. The intensity and variety of outlook you can entertain in the unity of your own being without feeling defensive or insecure. I mean the strength of your spirit to encourage others to become freer in the development of their diversity and their uniqueness. I mean the power to sustain more complex and enriching tensions. I mean the magnanimity of concern to provide conditions that enable others to increase in stature. Here's another reason why I love that quote so much, why it resonated with me so much. It's particularly this line, I mean the strength of your spirit to encourage others to become freer in the development of their diversity and uniqueness. I was like, what if that is the future of liberal religion? What if this is where we have failed by not encouraging others to become freer in the development of their own diversity and their uniqueness? The story of Madame Modifus is a story that is painfully familiar to me. Someone who came from another country, from another culture, and having to tone it down in order to fit in, because my whole self is not welcomed in some places. And what I know about the human soul is that it goes into hiding. It goes into hiding when we can be our full selves, our whole self. And that breaks my heart every single day, seeing what oppression and repression does to the human soul, to our core, to what is most authentic, most unique, most precious about us. What having to repress our life force does to our psyches. I know. And so this quote is asking us to grow the size of our soul, to expand, to open up and let in more perspectives and more languages and more cultures and more colors, more diverse wisdom, and to wrestle with how that contradicts our own worldview. It is asking us not just to allow others their uniqueness, but to invest in the growth of others. That's my second favorite line. I mean the magnanimity of concern to provide conditions that enable others to increase in stature. And that is love, beloveds. That is love. That investment in creating the right conditions for all of us to grow and flourish. And you know what Zora Neale Hurston said about that, right? She said, love, make your soul crawl out from its hiding place. Love, make your soul crawl out from its hiding place. May we create more loving conditions. May we invest in love. May it be so. May it be so. Amen and Ashe.
but time through a prayer to me, and all around me became still. I need love, love's divine. Please forgive me now. I see that I've been blind. Give me love. Love is what I need to help me know my name. In the rainstorm came sanctuary, and I felt my spirit fly. I have found all of my reality. I realize what it takes. Give me love, love divine. Please forgive me now. I see that I've been blind. Give me love. Love is what I need to help me know my name. Oh, I don't bend, don't break. Show me how to live and promise me you won't mistake. Love will help me know my name. Well, I try to say there's nothing wrong, but deep inside I feel me dying all along. But the message here is plain to see. Believe me, give me love, love divine. Please forgive me now. I see that I've been blind. I need love. Love is what I need to help me know my name. Oh, I don't bend, don't break. Teach me how to live and promise me you won't mistake. Love, love is what I need to help me know my name. I need love, love divine. Please forgive me now. I see that I've been blind. Give me love. Love is what I need to help me know my name. I need love, love divine. Please forgive me now. I see that I've been blind. I need love, love is what I need to help me know my name. Oh, give me love, love divine. Please forgive me now. I see that I've been blind. Give me love, love is what I need. Love is what I need to help me. When I've walked to the end of my road, I've walked to the end of my road. Love, love, I need love. Love is what I need to help me know my name. And if you just love me, love will help me know my name.
Yes, Love is what I need to know my name. These words from the artist's seal capture the meaning of our story today. The story of Jane and her discovery of her full self and her real name, Maudie. Jane's story captured my attention the first time I read it. Her words, "I wasn't a real girl. I was a cardboard cutout of a girl." They stayed with me. It's clear the trauma and the pain of her home life. And this isn't unique or even uncommon for children, for any of us. So many of us know these experiences in our home lives, in our work lives, or in the stifling cultural conditions of oppression that seek to make us small, quiet, invisible. Conditions that seek to rob us of our fullness. But then something happens for Jane. Through the love of her grandmother, the generous embrace of the neighbors, and a little bit of imagination, Jane's full self, Maudie, finds expression. The freedom she experiences is in moments. Those moments when she's able to steal away from her house and go to her neighbors. But it is enough. These small moments of joy and love in the midst of the neglect and the suffering, they are life-saving. Zora Neale Hurston writes, "Love makes your soul crawl out from its hiding place." And that is exactly what Maudie's soul does. She is loved into the fullness of her being. I hear echoes of my own story in this story. And maybe you do too. For me, in a time of tremendous difficulty in my life, my UU church was the neighbor's house, full of warmth and welcome, music and imagination. And the grandmother, that was my Sunday school teachers, whose love and care, coupled with joy and attention, it made a difference